And 180 million years ago, it was a vast natural hollow into which waters from all the surrounding hills flowed. And with those streams came sediment, which is now this. And they also brought the bodies of the animals that lived in those hills, including creatures like this one. They pointed the most powerful telescope ever built at absolutely nothing, just empty darkness, a patch of sky where previous telescopes had found almost nothing. And when the image came back, it showed 800,000 galaxies hiding in what we thought was void. Hubble had looked at the exact same spot and found 10,000. We've been seeing 1% of what's actually out there, 1%. Everything you thought you knew about the size of the universe, about your place in it, about what exists beyond our little corner of reality, all of it was based on catastrophically incomplete information. And I need you to understand what that actually means, because this isn't just another space discovery. This is a fundamental revision of what it means to exist. See, we've been standing on our corner of the universe with our telescopes, looking out at certain wavelengths of light, counting galaxies, and assuming that what we could see was basically complete. Maybe we were missing a few things here and there, but we thought we had the rough picture. Then the James Webb Space Telescope came along, seeing infrared light that previous telescopes couldn't detect, and suddenly the empty spaces filled up. The darkness wasn't empty at all. It was full. We just couldn't see it because we were looking with the wrong tools, listening on the wrong frequency. And here's what I want to do in this video. I want to help you understand what the true scale of the universe actually means. Not as a number you memorize for a test and then forget. Not as some abstract fact that doesn't touch your daily life. But as something you feel in your bones, something that fundamentally changes how you think about your place in reality, about what matters, about what's possible. Because the scale isn't just big. It's big in a way that fractures meaning itself, that makes connection impossible across most of existence, that traps you in a tiny bubble surrounded by infinite things you can never reach. And once you really understand that, once you let it sink in, everything changes. So let me take you on this journey. Let me show you what Webb revealed, and more importantly, what it means for you, right now, living your life on this pale blue dot. The scientists operating the James Webb Space Telescope had to make choices about where to point it. Space is infinite in every direction, and telescope time is precious. Every hour spent looking at one region is an hour not spent looking somewhere else. So they had to decide. And one of the choices they made was controversial. They decided to point Webb at nothing, at a region of sky that looked essentially empty, because previous telescopes had found almost nothing there. Now, this wasn't truly empty. Hubble had surveyed this region before as part of the famous Hubble Deep Field project. They'd pointed Hubble at this tiny area of sky, this patch the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length, and let it collect light for days. And when the image came together, it contained roughly 10,000 galaxies. 10,000 entire galaxies in a space so small you could cover it with a single grain of sand. The Hubble Deep Field became one of the most famous images in astronomy because it showed just how crowded space really was. Every time you looked at what seemed empty, you found it was actually full of galaxies. But Webb was different. Webb was designed to see infrared wavelengths, the wavelengths where the most distant galaxies show up, because here's what happens. When light travels across billions of light years of expanding space, the expansion stretches the light itself. Light that started as visible wavelengths gets stretched into infrared wavelengths. It's called redshift, and it means that the most distant objects in the universe are invisible to visible light telescopes like Hubble. They're not gone, they're just shifted beyond what those telescopes can see. So the scientists gambled. They pointed Webb at the same region Hubble had surveyed, and they told it to collect light for 250 hours, 10 full days, just sitting there, gathering every photon, building an image from the faintest possible signals. And when the image finally came together, when they processed all that data, it contains 797,942 galaxies, nearly 800,000. Every single one of them, a collection of billions of stars, every star potentially surrounded by planets, all of it hiding in what had looked essentially empty. Hubble had missed 98% of what was there. Not because Hubble was a bad telescope. Hubble revolutionized astronomy. Hubble showed us things we'd never seen before. But Hubble was looking through visible light, and most of the distant universe simply doesn't show up in visible light anymore. The wavelengths have been stretched beyond what visible light telescopes can detect. The galaxies were always there. They just became invisible to us because we were looking with the wrong tools. And here's the first lesson I want you to take from this. Reality is always bigger than your tools for observing it. Always. The universe doesn't shrink to fit your telescope. Your telescope just determines how much of reality you're currently able to perceive. And when you upgrade your tools, when you learn to see in new ways, reality explodes in complexity. What looked empty reveals itself as abundant. What seemed simple reveals itself as intricate beyond measure. This applies to everything, not just astronomy. The world you perceive is always limited by your tools for perception. Your senses, your concepts, your language, your assumptions about what's possible. All of it creates boundaries around what you can see. And just like those astronomers pointing Webb at empty sky, sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is look at what seems empty or simple or fully understood and look again with new tools, new perspectives, new ways of seeing. Now, if we were that wrong about one tiny patch of sky, think about what that means for our understanding of the entire universe. Current estimates say the observable universe contains somewhere between 200 billion and 2 trillion galaxies. That's already a huge range, by the way. The uncertainty spans an order of magnitude. We're not even close to knowing for sure. But those estimates are based on observations that, according to Webb, missed 98% of what was actually there. So what's the real number? If we miss 98%, then the actual number of galaxies might be 20 trillion, or 100 trillion, or more. We're talking about numbers so large, they stop meaning anything to the human brain. Your brain simply cannot hold numbers like that. When I say 100 trillion galaxies, your brain hears a really big number and stops. It doesn't actually comprehend the magnitude. It can't. The machinery wasn't built for it. And every one of those galaxies contains an average of about 200 billion stars. So multiply 200 billion by potentially 100 trillion and you get numbers with more zeros than you can even count. 2 with 25 zeros after it. Each one of those stars might have planets orbiting it. Earth-like worlds. Places where the chemistry of life could be playing out right now. The numbers become so vast, they lose all connection to human experience. But here's where it gets even stranger. Webb didn't just find more galaxies, it found galaxies that shouldn't exist. Galaxies that broke our understanding of how the universe works. There's one galaxy in particular that scientists have been obsessing over. It's called JADESGSZ140, which is a terrible name, but that's how astronomers label things. This galaxy emitted the light we're seeing when the universe was only 290 million years old. The universe is currently 13.8 billion years old. This galaxy existed when reality was barely 2% of its current age. The universe was an infant, and this galaxy was already there, fully formed, blazing with light. And here's why it's impossible. This galaxy is too bright, too massive, too organized. It contains hundreds of millions of solar masses worth of stars. That means hundreds of millions of stars, as massive as our sun, all packed into one galaxy. And all of those stars had to form in what amounts to cosmic weeks. The universe had just finished cooling down from the Big Bang. Matter had barely started clumping together, and yet there's this galaxy, massive and bright and complex, existing when our models say nothing like it should exist yet. Our theories said galaxy formation should be a slow, gradual process. You start with tiny fluctuations in the density of matter. Those fluctuations attract more matter through gravity. Slowly, over hundreds of millions of years, you build up larger and larger structures. First small clumps, then clusters, then proto-galaxies, then full galaxies. It should take time, lots of time. But this galaxy didn't wait. It formed fast, impossibly fast. And it wasn't alone. Webb found hundreds of these early, impossibly large galaxies. All of them too bright, too massive, too developed for their age. All of them breaking the rules we thought we understood. Scientists spent months doubting what they were seeing. They checked the instruments, they verified the measurements, they looked for any possible error that could explain away the impossible data. And everything kept confirming the same result. These galaxies exist. They're real. They formed way earlier than they should have. Our models are fundamentally wrong. And you know what? This happens every time we look farther. Every time we build a better telescope, we find things that contradict what we thought we knew. The universe keeps surprising us, keeps showing us that our theories are incomplete, our understanding is shallow, our confidence is misplaced. This is the second lesson. You need to hold your understanding of reality very, very lightly. Whatever you think you know is probably incomplete, probably wrong in ways you can't even identify yet. This isn't about giving up on knowledge. It's not about sliding into relativism where nothing is true and everything is opinion. It's about intellectual humility, about recognizing that every discovery is provisional, that the evidence keeps changing. That being wrong is part of the process of eventually being less wrong. And this applies to your life too, not just to cosmology. Whatever you're certain about right now, whatever beliefs you hold as obviously true, some of them are wrong. You just don't know which ones yet. The world is more complex than your current model of it. And that's okay. That's not a failure. That's just how understanding works. You build a model, you test it, it breaks, you build a better model. Over and over, forever. Now, let me tell you about what Webb revealed about distance, because this is where the scale of the universe becomes truly impossible to comprehend. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. That's the cosmic speed limit. Nothing in the universe moves faster than light. It's fundamental to how physics work. And the universe is 13.8 billion years old. So logically, the farthest thing we should be able to see is 13.8 billion light years away. The light from anything farther simply wouldn't have had time to reach us yet. Simple math, right? Except that's completely wrong. The actual edge of the observable universe sits about 46.5 billion light years away in every direction. Total diameter across the observable universe is 93 billion light years. That's nearly 7 times wider than the distance light could have possibly travelled in the age of the universe. How is that possible? How can we see things farther away than light could have travelled? The answer is expansion. Space itself is stretching. Not things moving through space like cars on a highway. Space itself, the fabric of reality, is growing, creating new distance without objects actually moving anywhere. It's like if you drew dots on a balloon and then inflated the balloon. The dots don't move across the rubber. The rubber itself expands and the dots get farther apart as a result. When a distant galaxy emitted the light we're seeing now, 13.5 billion years ago, it was much, much closer to us. But during those billions of years that light spent travelling toward us, space expanded. The galaxy was carried away from us by that expansion. It's like the galaxy was standing on a moving walkway going in the opposite direction. By the time that ancient light finally reaches Earth, the galaxy that emitted it has been carried to 33 billion light years away, or even farther. Imagine you're running on a treadmill, trying to reach someone standing ahead of you. You're running forward, making progress. progress. But the treadmill is pulling you backward at the same time. Light does the same thing. It's traveling toward us at light speed, but cosmic expansion is constantly increasing the distance it needs to cover. And here's where it gets really disturbing. Expansion is accelerating. Space is growing faster and faster over time. It's driven by something called dark energy, which makes up about 68% of everything in the universe. We don't know what dark energy actually is. We just know it causes space to expand. And we know that more space means more dark energy, which causes more expansion, which creates even more space in a runaway feedback loop that never stops. What this means is that some galaxies are currently receding from us faster than the speed of light. Not because they're moving through space faster than light, which would be impossible, but because the space between us and them is expanding so fast that the total increase in distance exceeds light speed. Those galaxies lie beyond what's called the cosmic event horizon. Light they emit right now will never, ever reach us. Not in 1 billion years, not in 1 trillion, never. Because that light is traveling toward us at light speed, but the space between us is expanding even faster, so the light never makes up the distance. This creates a boundary beyond which things become permanently unobservable, forever, invisible, impossible to ever see or detect or confirm, even if you had infinite time and infinite patience. Everything within 46.5 billion light years is part of your observable universe. Everything beyond that exists in a separate reality that you simply cannot access. Not now, not ever. And every second, more galaxies are crossing that boundary and disappearing. Right now, as we speak, galaxies that are currently visible to our telescopes are being carried past the edge. They cross the cosmic event horizon and vanish from observable reality forever. We will never see them again. Future generations will never know they existed. In fact, if you wait long enough, almost everything will disappear. In about 150 billion years, assuming some form of intelligent life still exists in the Milky Way, they'll look up at the night sky and see almost nothing. Just our own galaxy, which will have merged with Andromeda by then, plus maybe 50 small satellite galaxies. Everything else will have been carried beyond the horizon. The night sky will be almost completely empty, and those future scientists will have no way to discover the truth about cosmic history. They won't be able to find evidence of the Big Bang because the cosmic microwave background radiation will have been redshifted into undetectability. They won't know that billions of galaxies once filled the sky. They'll think they live in a small, static universe consisting of just their local galaxy group surrounded by eternal darkness. They'll never be able to figure out the true story of where they came from and what they're part of. We are living in a cosmically special time. Not because we're special, but because we're living in the only era when the universe reveals itself. When the evidence of cosmic history is still visible and accessible. You are witnessing something that has a beginning, a middle and an end. You're alive during the brief golden age when the full story can still be told. In cosmological terms, we're some of the last conscious beings who will ever get to see the universe as it actually is in all its vastness. That's humbling and profound and terrifying all at once. Now, let me tell you what all of this means for your place in reality, because this is where the philosophy starts to get really uncomfortable. You live inside a bubble. Your observable universe extends 46.5 billion light years in every direction from Earth. That's the region where light has had enough time to reach you. Everything inside that bubble is potentially knowable. You could, in principle, gather information about it. Everything outside that bubble is not just unknown, but unknowable. Fundamentally, permanently impossible to ever access. But here's the thing. Your bubble isn't the same as someone else's bubble. If you could instantly teleport to a galaxy 10 billion light years away and look around, you'd have a different observable universe. It would overlap with Earth's observable universe, but it wouldn't be identical. Some things visible from Earth wouldn't be visible from there. Some things invisible from Earth would suddenly be visible. A galaxy 50 billion light years away from Earth beyond our cosmic horizon, exists in a completely separate, observable universe. Beings living there, if any exist, would have their own bubble. Their observable universe would include things we can never see, and ours includes things they can never see. We are permanently, physically, fundamentally separated, not by distance we could someday cross, but by the structure of space-time itself. The universe is fractured into billions upon billions of overlapping observable bubbles, each one revealing a different subset of the cosmos. There is no view from nowhere. There's no objective, complete picture that includes everything. Reality is inherently partial, perspective-dependent, fragmented, and you are trapped inside your partiality. You cannot escape it, you cannot transcend it, you can only exist within it. This means you are cosmically alone in a way you cannot fix. Not alone because life doesn't exist elsewhere. It probably does. The numbers make it almost certain, but alone because most of that life exists in regions of space you can never contact, never communicate with, never even confirm exists. You could be surrounded by trillions of civilizations, living their lives, falling in love, creating art, building societies, asking the same questions you're asking, and you would still be isolated because your observable bubbles don't overlap. Think about what that means. From the perspective of a being in a galaxy, 47 billion light years away, if such beings exist, they're looking back at the region where the Milky Way exists, and they're seeing light from billions of years before you were born. They might be wondering if anyone lives here, looking at ancient light that shows an era before Earth even existed. And you're doing the exact same thing in reverse. You're seeing their deep past while their present moment unfolds in a reality you cannot access. There is no universal now, no cosmic clock that synchronizes everyone's present moment. Every location in space has its own timeline, its own definition of what now means. You and that distant galaxy aren't just separated in space, you're separated in time. You literally cannot share a present moment, even in principle. You exist in timelines that don't intersect. This is what the scale of the universe actually means when you really think about it. It means distance and time tangle together in ways that make connection impossible. It means you're trapped in your own moment, surrounded by visions of a past that no longer exists anywhere except in the light currently reaching your eyes. The stars you see when you look up at night, most of them don't look like that anymore. Some of them are already dead. You're seeing ghosts. The universe you perceive is a museum of the past, not a window into the present. The numbers Webb reveals are an act of violence against human-scale thinking. Your brain genuinely cannot comprehend them. When I say there might be 100 trillion galaxies, your brain hears the words, processes them as a lot, and then stops. The actual magnitude doesn't register. The number is too big for cognitive machinery that evolved to count fruit on trees and track members of a small tribe. But Webb forces you to confront what those numbers mean in a way that abstract statistics don't. 800,000 galaxies in one tiny patch of sky, each one containing 200 billion stars. Each star potentially hosting planets. The multiplication spirals into numbers with more zeros than you can track, and suddenly those numbers stop being abstract and start being evidence. Evidence of your irrelevance at scales too large to defend yourself against. How do you matter in a universe that contains numbers like that? How can your life possibly be significant when there are potentially trillions of planets with their own stories playing out in parallel, most of which you'll never know about? How can anything you do possibly make a difference when the universe is so incomprehensibly vast that your entire planet is less than a grain of sand on an infinite beach? The answer is brutal and honest. At cosmic scales, you don't matter. You can't. The universe is too big. Your actions cannot propagate beyond your tiny corner. A few hundred light years at most, assuming you somehow send signals in all directions and they travel forever. That's nothing. Less than nothing. A rounding error in a universe, 93 billion light years across, This is the dark truth that most people don't want to face. The universe's scale is an argument against your significance. You are small in a way that cannot be fixed by ambition or achievement or legacy. No matter what you do, you will always be cosmically insignificant. The math is too overwhelming. The distances are too vast. The timescales are too long. You cannot possibly matter at those scales. But here's where I want to push back on that conclusion. Because that move from I am small to therefore I am insignificant, that's not actually logically valid. Scale doesn't determine any value. Your significance is not measured by what percentage of the universe's volume you occupy, or how many other beings exist, or how long your influence propagates. You are not insignificant because you're small. You're precious because you're rare. Life, as far as we can actually confirm with evidence, is astonishingly uncommon. We found it on exactly one planet, Earth. That's it. We've looked, we've searched, we've examined thousands of exoplanets. We've studied Mars and Venus and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. No life, just Earth, just us. Now, it's probably true that life exists elsewhere. The numbers make it statistically likely. But probable isn't the same as confirmed. And more importantly, even if life is common, that doesn't diminish the value of this life here, now. The life you can actually touch and interact with and care about. Consciousness is even rarer than life. As far as we know, consciousness might be unique to Earth. Maybe some animals have it to varying degrees. Maybe octopuses have their own alien form of consciousness. Maybe crows and dolphins and elephants have inner experiences we can barely imagine. But the kind of consciousness you have, the kind that can look up at the sky and understand what it's seeing, that can grasp its own cosmic insignificance and then choose to care anyway, that might be unique in your entire observable universe. Maybe there are other civilizations scattered across trillions of galaxies. Maybe some of them are far more advanced than us. Maybe they're out there right now, doing their own version of astronomy, asking their own version of these questions. But you will never meet most of them. They exist in separate bubbles, unreachable by any method we can currently conceive. Which means the consciousness here, in this moment, on this planet, is irreplaceable. Not because it's special in some grand cosmic sense, not because the universe cares about it. The universe doesn't care about anything. But it's irreplaceable because it's the only consciousness you have access to. You don't get to be someone else 50 billion light years away. You don't get to experience their joys or their struggles or their discoveries. You get to be you, here, now, in this specific location, in space and time. And that's enough. It has to be enough, because the universe has already decided that it's all you're getting. So what do you do with this information? How do you live your life knowing that you're trapped in a bubble of observable reality, surrounded by infinite things you can never reach? How do you find meaning in a universe so vast that your existence barely registers? Let me offer you some practices. Not beliefs you have to adopt, but ways of engaging with this knowledge that might help you integrate it into your lived experience. First practice, look up with different eyes. Tonight, or whenever you next get the chance, go outside and look at the moon. Really look at it. Don't just glance and move on. Spend a minute really seeing it. That light you're seeing left the moon about 1.3 seconds ago. You're not seeing where the moon is now. You're seeing where it was 1.3 seconds ago. Now find a star, any star. That light is years old, maybe decades, maybe centuries. Depending on which star you're looking at, you might be seeing light that left when your grandparents were young, or when the Roman Empire was falling, or when humans hadn't even invented agriculture yet. You're looking at a ghost, a vision of something that doesn't exist anymore, at least not in that form. This practice is about training yourself to understand that connection across distance requires accepting that you're always connecting with the past, never the present. At cosmic scales, that gap becomes billions of years. When you look at a distant galaxy, you're seeing what it looked like when the Earth was young, when life was just beginning, when nothing you recognize existed yet. You need to stop expecting immediate, perfect connection. Stop expecting to ever have complete, up-to-date information about distant realities. Accept that knowledge is always partial, always delayed, always filtered through the limitations of light speed and cosmic expansion, and find peace in that incompleteness. You'll never have the full picture. You'll never know everything, and that's okay. You can still love. You can still create. You can still matter to the people within reach. Second practice, identify the limits of your direct experience. Not what you've been told, not what you've read or heard or seen in videos, but what you have actually, personally, directly perceived with your own senses. How far have you travelled from your birthplace? How much of your own country have you actually seen with your own eyes? How much of your own city have you walked through? If you really think about it, if you're brutally honest, the answer is probably shockingly little. Most of what you know about the world comes from second-hand sources. Photographs, videos, news reports, books, other people's testimony. You're trusting that they're telling the truth, and they probably are, mostly. But you can't verify it directly. You haven't been to most of the places you believe exist. You haven't met most of the people you believe are real. Your direct, certain, unmediated knowledge of the world is incredibly tiny. Everything beyond that is a form of trust. This isn't about becoming skeptical of everything. It's not about sliding into solipsism where you doubt whether anything beyond your immediate perception is real. It's about humility, about recognizing that almost everything you believe about reality is based on trust in systems and institutions and other people's observations. Your observable universe of absolutely certain knowledge is vanishingly small. Everything else requires faith. Notice when you're confusing things I've been told with things I know for certain. Notice how much of your worldview is constructed from second-hand information. And recognize that if your directly observable universe is that small here on Earth, imagine how much smaller it is when we're talking about cosmic scales. Almost everything we know about the universe comes from interpreting faint signals, building models, trusting that our instruments work correctly. We could be wrong about huge swaths of it. We probably are wrong about some things, and that's okay. Uncertainty is not the enemy. Pretending you're certain when you're not, that's the enemy. Third practice, witness your own disappearance. This one is harder, but it's powerful. Close your eyes and imagine yourself from the perspective of someone 50 billion light years away, beyond your cosmic horizon. From their perspective, you don't exist. You're not hidden or invisible. You simply do not exist in their observable universe. There is no possible way for them to ever confirm that you're real. You could live your entire life, achieve incredible things, love deeply, suffer intensely, and to them you would still be nothing. Not even nothing, less than nothing. A non-entity that doesn't register in any way. Now reverse it. Right now, at this exact moment, there are beings living complete lives in galaxies you will never see being born, falling in love, raising children, creating art, asking questions about the universe, dying, all of it happening simultaneously with your life. All of it as real and vivid and meaningful to them as your life is to you. And you will never know they exist. You cannot verify them, you cannot reach them, you cannot even confirm whether they're real or just a theoretical possibility. Sit with that disconnection, really feel it. You are alone in a way that cannot be resolved. Not alone because nobody else exists, but alone because most of what exists is in places you can never reach, having experiences you can never share, asking questions you can never help them answer. This practice is about accepting radical limitation. You do not get to explore the whole universe. You do not get to meet all the beings that might exist. You do not get to witness all the beauty and all the tragedy playing out across cosmic scales. You get this planet. Maybe if humanity survives and advances, you get this solar system. Maybe someday this galaxy. But everything beyond that is permanently closed to you. Grieve that limitation. Really grieve it. Feel the loss of all those potential connections, all those civilizations you'll never meet, all those perspectives you'll never encounter, all that knowledge you'll never acquire. Let yourself feel sad about it, because it is sad. It's a real loss, even if it's a loss of something you never had and never could have. And then, after you've grieved, make a decision. Decide that the tiny corner of reality you do have access to is still worth caring about, still worth protecting, still worth filling with as much beauty and love and meaning as you can manage. Because what else are you going to do? The universe has decided you can't have everything. The only remaining choice is whether you'll cherish the tiny slice of everything you do have. You know, there's something most people aren't talking about regarding Webb's discoveries. Not just that the universe is bigger than we thought, not just that there are more galaxies than we imagined, but that the universe is becoming fundamentally unknowable at scales we're only beginning to measure. We thought we understood distances. We thought we had a handle on how big the observable universe was. Then Webb showed us we'd been seeing 1% of what was actually there. 1%. 98% of the galaxies in that patch of sky were invisible to us. Not because they didn't exist, but because we lacked the tools to see them. We thought we understood how galaxies form. We had models, simulations, theories that seemed to work. Then Webb found galaxies that shouldn't exist according to those models. Galaxies that formed too fast, grew too large, became too organized in time frames our theories said were impossible. And we had to confront the fact that our understanding was incomplete, maybe fundamentally flawed. We thought we understood time and space and how they relate to observation. Then we really grappled with what it means that there's no universal now, that every point in space has its own timeline, that we're forever looking at the past and never at the present when we look at distant objects. The universe is not just large, it's stranger than we imagined. More resistant to simple explanations, more hostile to our cognitive architecture. Every time we think we're getting close to understanding it, it reveals new layers of complexity that force us to start over. And here's what I want you to understand. This isn't going to stop. We're not going to eventually figure everything out and have a complete, perfect understanding of reality. Every answer generates new questions. Every tool reveals previously invisible phenomena. The universe is not a puzzle with a finite number of pieces that we're slowly assembling. It's more like a fractal. The closer you look, the more detail emerges. Forever. There's no bottom. There's no point where we'll say, okay, we figured it out, we know everything now. So you need to get comfortable with permanent incompleteness. With knowing that no matter how much you learn, you'll never know everything. With accepting that mystery is not a temporary condition to be solved, but a permanent feature of existence. Stop expecting the universe to be fully comprehensible. Stop expecting your actions to matter at cosmic scales. Stop expecting to ever see the totality of what's out there, because you won't. You're trapped in your observable bubble, watching galaxies disappear as expansion accelerates, forever confined to a tiny region of a much vaster reality. But here's the thing. Here's what I really want you to hear. You are not insignificant because you're small. You're precious because you're rare. Consciousness, this thing you have right now, this experience of being aware, of having thoughts and feelings and the ability to look up and wonder and understand, is astonishingly uncommon in the universe. As far as we can confirm, it exists on one planet, here. Maybe it exists elsewhere. Probably it does, given the numbers. But you can't confirm that. You can only confirm that it exists here. And that makes it precious. Not because the universe cares. The universe doesn't care about anything. The universe is not a person. It has no opinions, no values, no preferences. It just is. But consciousness matters to consciousness. Your awareness matters to you and to the other aware beings around you. That's enough. That's all you need. The ability to look up at the night sky and understand that you're looking at light from the past, that those stars are real physical objects billions of miles away, that the universe is vast beyond comprehension, and then to feel awe about that, that's rare. That might be unique. And even if it's not unique, even if there are billions of other conscious beings doing the same thing right now, scattered across the cosmos, that doesn't diminish your experience. Your consciousness is no less valuable because others exist. Which means the consciousness here on this planet in this moment matters. Not in some grand cosmic sense, because again, the universe doesn't assign value to anything, but it matters because it's the only consciousness you have access to. It's the only awareness you can directly confirm and interact with and care for. So take care of it. Take care of your own mind. Take care of the people around you who exist inside your observable bubble. The people you can actually reach and touch and affect. Take care of this planet that hosts the only consciousness you can confirm exists. Take care of your relationships, your communities, your local environment, not because doing so matters to the universe. It doesn't, but because it matters to you and to the beings you can actually affect. You're living in the brief golden age when the universe still reveals itself, when the evidence of cosmic history is still accessible, when the night sky is still full of visible galaxies instead of empty darkness. You're a witness to something that's ending, something temporary and unrepeatable. And that witnessing matters. It matters because you're here to do it. Because you have the capacity to look and understand and feel something about what you're seeing. Webb showed us that we're smaller than we thought, that we've been seeing a fraction of what's real, that our place in the cosmos is even more humble, even more limited than we imagined. But it also showed us that we're alive at exactly the right time to see the full picture before it fades. We're some of the last observers who will ever have access to the complete story. That's not insignificant. That's not meaningless. That's actually profoundly important, even if the importance only exists in our own minds, in our own experience. So here's what I want you to do. After this video ends, I want you to sit with this knowledge for a while. Don't immediately distract yourself. Don't rush to the next thing. Just sit with the scale of what Webb revealed. Feel the smallness. Really let yourself feel it. You are tiny. Your planet is tiny. Your sun is one star among hundreds of billions in one galaxy among potentially hundreds of trillions. Your entire civilization, everything humanity has ever done, every person who has ever lived, all of it fits on one pale blue dot that wouldn't even be visible from most of the universe. Feel that. Let it be uncomfortable. Let it shake something loose inside you, because that discomfort is important. It's evidence that you're actually engaging with the reality instead of just treating it as an interesting fact. And then, after you've sat with the smallness, I want you to make a choice. Choose to care anyway. Choose to treat the people in your life as precious, even though the universe doesn't care about them. Choose to protect this planet, even though there might be trillions of other planets out there. Choose to create beauty and meaning and connection in your tiny corner, even though your tiny corner is all you get. That choice is everything. Because the universe isn't going to give you significance. You have to create it yourself. You have to decide that your experience matters, that your relationships matter, that how you treat the beings within your reach matters. Not because some cosmic authority validated that decision, but because you made it. Because you decided that even in a universe 93 billion light years across, even trapped in your observable bubble, even cosmically alone and permanently limited, you're still going to act like love matters, like kindness matters, like the quality of consciousness in your corner of reality is worth caring about. And you know what? That act of choosing to care in the face of cosmic indifference, that's maybe the most defiant, most courageous thing a conscious being can do. The universe showed you that you don't matter at cosmic scales. And you looked at that truth, really saw its felt it in your bones and said, I'm going to matter here anyway, in this tiny bubble, to these people, on this planet. I'm going to care as if it matters, because to me it does. That's beautiful. That's genuinely, profoundly beautiful. Not because it changes the universe. You can't change the universe, but because it changes you. Because it means you've understood the truth about scale and limitation and chosen to build meaning inside those constraints instead of surrendering to nihilism. Webb gave us a gift. Not a comfortable gift, not an easy gift, but a gift nonetheless. It showed us the truth, the real truth. Not the sanitized, human-friendly version, but the actual overwhelming, incomprehensible reality of what we're part of. And now you know. You can't unknow it. You can't go back to the comfortable illusions you held before, but you can integrate it. You can take this knowledge and let it change how you live. Let it make you more humble because you're smaller than you thought. Let it make you more grateful because you're alive in the golden age when the universe still reveals itself. Let it make you more compassionate because everyone else is trapped in their own observable bubble too, trying to make sense of the same overwhelming reality. Let it make you more present because the here and now is all you actually have access to. You're not broken because you're small. You're not meaningless because the universe is vast. You're precious because you're rare and you're here and you can witness and you can care. Take care of the tiny corner you can touch. That's not settling for less. That's not giving up. That's wisdom. That's understanding your actual constraints and deciding to work within them with grace and intention and love. The universe is terrifyingly large. You are cosmically insignificant and you matter anyway. All three of those things are true at the same time. Hold them together. Don't try to resolve the paradox. Just live inside it with as much courage and kindness as you can manage. If this landed for you, if something shifted in how you see your place in reality, let me know in the comments. Tell me what it feels like to know you're trapped in an observable bubble. Does it make you feel small? Does it make you want to take better care of the tiny corner you can actually reach? I really want to hear from you. And if this was valuable, if you want more of these deep explorations into what Webb is revealing about our cosmos and our place in it, subscribe. Hit the bell, because we're just getting started. There's so much more to unpack about what these discoveries mean for how we live, how we think, how we make sense of being conscious beings in an incomprehensible universe. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to look at uncomfortable truths. Thank you for choosing to care, even when the universe gave you every reason not to. That matters. You matter. Not cosmically, but here. Now, to the people within reach. And that's enough. That has to be enough. Because it's all any of us get. Go look at the moon tonight. See it for what it really is. A ghost. Light from 1.3 seconds ago. A reminder that everything you see is the past. That connection across distance is always imperfect, always delayed. And love the people around you anyway. Build something beautiful anyway. Matter to your corner of reality anyway. That's it, that's the whole thing. You're small, the universe is vast, and you get to choose what you do with that knowledge. Choose well.